And now enjoy Brent Marchant's The Cinema Scribe.
My thanks to Bring Me to Life Radio, and welcome to The Cinema Scribe. When we wonder why our reality turns out as it does, if we want an honest answer to that question, we have to ask ourselves, what motivates us? All too often we drift through life not taking stock of our intentions, letting life unfold seemingly on its own, as if we're oblivious to the part we play in its manifestation. But, even if we believe we have no hand in the process, or are afraid to see what those motivations might entail, in the end we can't ignore them or how we employ them, a subject explored at length in the new domestic drama, The Wife. Famed best-selling author Joseph Castleman, played by Jonathan Pryce, is on the verge of the biggest accomplishment of his storied career. As a candidate for the Nobel Prize in Literature, he nervously awaits word from the awards committee beside his ever-supportive wife, Joni, played by Glenn Close, who has spent many years dutifully attending to his every need. And when word finally arrives that he's been named the winner, he's ecstatic. However, the same can't be said for Joni. Sure, she puts on a smiling face, but somewhere amidst all the celebrating she just doesn't seem to share her husband's happiness. The question, of course, is why? As the couple prepares to head to Stockholm, Sweden for the awards ceremony, Joni's mood grows ever more perplexingly dour. And the more her celebrated spouse is thrust into the limelight, the harder it is for her to contain her feelings, which gradually surface as part melancholy, part resentment, and part rage. But what's behind these emotions? For what it's worth, that begins to emerge too, thanks to the increasingly inquisitive and intrusive questioning of her son, David, played by Max Irons, and of an ambitious would-be biographer, Nathaniel Bone, played by Christian Slater, both of whom accompany Joseph and Joni on their trip. In quiet moments between the festivities, Joni turns reflective, thinking back to the days when she first met her future husband while she was a creative writing student at Smith College. Through a series of flashbacks, viewers discover how a young Joni, played by Annie Stark, and a young Joseph, played by Harry Lloyd, came together. Details of their romance and of their respective literary aspirations are revealed, aspects of which help forge and fuel the feelings that Joni is experiencing now. The question is, can she handle the revelations that are finally breaking through and demanding attention? And, perhaps even more importantly, what implications will they carry as she and Joseph look to move forward with their lives? Joni's reflection process deals with many issues, but it principally focuses on her motivations, the reasons underlying what she does and what she did. It can be a trying process, especially if we come up against motivations that we were unaware of, particularly if they involve matters we dislike. It can also be disheartening, exasperating, and troublesome if we have been engaged in such practices for a protracted period of time. Thoughts of wasted efforts, foolishly expended energy, and other worrisome concerns come to the forefront. And it's those issues that Joni must now face front and center. For instance, as a creative writing student, Joni obviously had a love of the craft. And from all indications, based on the glowing feedback from her professor-turned-spouse, she had real talent. But she walked away. So why did Joni cave? Fear of failure? Is it a desire to spare herself the kind of frustration that other women authors of the 1950s endured? Or did she instead decide to refocus her efforts on being a devoted wife and mother? But was the domestic life enough for someone who obviously had so much to say? And now, years later, seeing Joseph experience such success, can she live with her past decisions? As becomes apparent, though, such considerations ring hollow. There's more to the feelings that are now surfacing, and they suggest that she's been concealing some bigger, even more troubling secrets for decades, revelations that she can no longer contain. What is she to do with them as she struggles to keep a lid on them that will no longer stay in place? Then there's also Joni's relationship with Joseph. As the flashbacks reveal, she fell for her future husband rather easily. That is, while he was already a married man and father of a young daughter. Were they truly in love and destined to be together? Or was she an impressionable young admirer who simply took advantage of an opportunistic situation? And, if the latter, can she realistically live with that? What's more, after many years together, it became apparent that Joseph was a serial philanderer, pursuing affairs without being especially discreet about them. This penchant even follows the couple to Stockholm, where Joseph engages in a less-than-veiled flirtation with a photographer assigned by the Nobel Committee to document his time in Sweden. This is another consideration that Joni must wrestle with. Joni's introspection on these issues is a lot to bear, especially in the shadow of all the praise being heaped on a man she's beginning to have serious doubts about. Indeed, the process is difficult, but it also has the potential to pay significant personal dividends. For example, it holds the promise of facing fears and living courageously. It also makes it possible to unearth some long-buried personal integrity. These are significant personal gains not to be minimized. Yet, even with such benefits, there's a certain discontentment with her own analysis, suggesting that her evaluation of her motivations is still incomplete, that she must continue to dig deeper into why her reality has materialized as it has, and to decide if she wants to keep manifesting it the same way going forward. For all the film's many worthwhile metaphysical strengths, though, there are aspects of the picture that come up short. The biggest issue is the story's predictability, some of which is apparent even in the trailer, and the remainder of which tends to become fairly obvious early on in the movie. This lack of suspense consequently undermines a plot where there should have been intrigue aplenty. What saves the film from this innate shortcoming, however, is the power of the performances by Close, Price, and Slater, all of whom are outstanding in their respective parts. In fact, this could be the role that finally earns Close her long overdue Oscar, considering that she shows a range here not previously apparent in most of her other performances. If strong portrayals and philosophical insights are enough for you, by all means see this one. But if you find formula storylines tiresome, you might want to skip this release. Motivations can be tricky to deal with, because we can convince ourselves to turn a blind eye toward them, especially if we're afraid of what we might see. But, nevertheless, they're always with us, like companions for the journey. So if we're to make the most of our trip through life, we should pay attention to what they are and what they're intended to achieve. To do less is to face a lifetime of disillusionment and disappointment, the makings of a tragedy far more troubling than anything even the most talented novelist could ever conceive. I'm Brent Marchant, the Cinema Scribe. Thanks for listening.
A lifelong movie fan and longtime student of metaphysics, Cinema Scribe Brent Marchant is the award-winning author of Get the Picture, Conscious Creation Goes to the Movies, Consciously Created Cinema, The Movie Lover's Guide to the Law of Attraction, and Third Reel Conscious Creation Goes Back to the Movies, all of which provide reader-friendly looks at how the practice of conscious creation, also known as the Law of Attraction, is illustrated through film. Brett maintains an ongoing blog about metaphysical cinema and other self-empowerment topics through his website www.brentmarchant.com. He's also the movie correspondent for the Good Radio Network and New Consciousness Review magazine and radio, with additional writing contributions to Smart Women's Empowerment, The Happy Guide, Library Journal, BeliefNet, Vivid Life, New Age News, and Master Heart magazine. Brett holds a BA in magazine journalism and history from Syracuse University. Again, check him out at www.brentmarchant.com.